she's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Katherine Gray.
Hi, welcome everybody to Live, Love, Thrive Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360 Karma. We're so happy to have you with us today, and we are so happy to have our guests with us today. She is phenomenal. I can't wait to share your story with this wonderful fashion designer who's also mixing tech with fashion to help save the lives of horses and dogs. And if that sounds like a interesting concept, well, it is. So stay with us and you're going to find out all about that. Thanks so much for tuning in, and please give a warm welcome to my guest, Dalia MacPhee. Hi, Dalia. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. You know, I can understand why you're a successful businesswoman. You came up to me at the event. And you're like, I want to be on your show. And I'm like, I want you on my show. I think your story is extraordinary. You started life in Vancouver, Canada, right?
That's right.
Which is my wife and I, it's one of our favorite places.
I know.
Yeah.
We were chatting about it. Yeah, I just came back. Every time I get a little bit rude, they send me back over there. So
Did they say you got that from living in LA?
Yeah, they've been sending me back quite a bit recently.
So you go between Vancouver and Los Angeles.
I do.
Yeah. I mean, as a fashion designer, I would imagine that you need to be in Los Angeles and New York.
You really have to be, well, you can be anywhere now because of the digital world. New York is obviously great. I used to spend a lot of time in New York.
Yeah.
But I'm a West Coast girl at heart.
Yeah.
And I have a love-hate relationship with New York. I like being able to get in my car and so I go there.
Tool around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about how you got, there's so many people out there, I'm sure, that are thinking they would love to be designing fashion. I mean, what a cool job is that you created for yourself?
It's not cool.
Well, it seems cool, and you've been super successful. I mean, your clothes are in everything from Nordstrom to Dillard to you tell me some of the other ones.
Nordstrom's, Bloomies, Neiman's.
All the big department
TJ
stores.
Maxx.
Yeah.
Although they're having
Macy's.
a good sale right now.
Yeah.
So.
And we're going to talk about also that you're an equestrian and that you actually combine technology and fashion to design something that saves the lives of horses when the fires come about here in Los Angeles or San Diego or wherever in the world.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's just extraordinary. So
thank you.
I want to talk about that. But let's talk about how you got into this fashion design business. So first of all, you came from a family that had a retail business.
Yeah, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family in Canada, and my parents actually had a chain of clothing stores.
So you didn't have a chance. You grew up in an entrepreneurial family.
I had no desire to get into clothing.
Yeah.
I was studying pre-law.
Yes.
Because the thing is that being in an entrepreneurial family, the vacation was, oh, no, we're not going to Disneyland. We're going to go to the factories in China.
Yeah, try to make it look like that was going to be fun,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Everyone else was doing book reports on their fun times in Fantasyland, and mine was on the NAFTA trading conditions. And so,
but and as funny as you think, your childhood was so different than most people, in the long run, it's really served you well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think mindset is everything.
Yes.
And
we talked about that this morning.
That's right.
Mercury's in retrograde, but what's more important is what we say and what we think and what we manifest with our mind and our thoughts in any situation.
But if it starts shaking, I'm under the table. I'm out of here. I'll just let you know right now.
Right. Exactly. I mean, there is some validity to it, but we can always maneuver through whatever it is, retrograde or whatever.
Well, it's self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
We were joking outside earlier, and I'd said, sure, if you think the world is coming down, you're going to start noticing it everywhere. In the same way that if you think everything's coming your way, you're going to start noticing that too.
Yes.
Including the Greyhound.
That's even with what's going on in the world today, not to digress, but it is if we think that a higher consciousness is coming about because of all the bad that's happening, that it's bringing people to a higher level of conscious thinking, as opposed to the world's coming to an end, and that's like a whole nother deep discussion. But I do agree with you on what we say and think is what manifests.
No, and I think you're right about the higher consciousness. I don't think we're coming to an end. I think we're coming to a crossroads.
Yes.
I think we're
like
able,
a new level.
Yeah, we're able. Look where our technology has gone. I mean, and we've lived through it. So we're creating as fast as we can dream.
Yes.
And we're either going to use our technology to heal the world, or we're going to use our technology to completely destroy the world.
Right.
It's completely up to us right now.
It is up to us.
So.
And I'm sitting here talking to like an inventor genius. You are. I mean, I know you have like 80 inventions and patents pending, and I mean, amazing. But that's why we're here on the planet, right? To download our gifts and then use them for the greater good, which is what you're doing.
Right. And you are too, by the way. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, you're in this family. They're entrepreneurs. They have a retail business. You want nothing to do with it. You think you want to do pre-law, but you get into that and decide, no, that isn't what you want to do.
Completely.
So your first foray into your own business was in jewelry.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I started, I was still in uni, and I started a small little jewelry collection, and I hustled. I think sometimes too, when you're younger, you have nothing to lose.
Yes.
So you just kind of go for it.
You're just fearless.
Well, I mean, thank goodness that learning how to speak and walk is put on toddlers. Yeah. Because if it was put on us, we'd be crawling, bumbling idiots, right?
Yeah.
We'd be too afraid. But so I started that first, and actually I had an infomercial out on a ring that I had invented, and I was working with the Home Shopping Network, but I didn't love it.
Yeah.
It wasn't my jam.
Yeah.
And so I continued with university, and I'd always had a love of fashion, and I specifically loved dresses, loved gowns. And so
that's where you made your first venture into your own line.
Correct.
Was in gowns.
Correct.
Which, by the way, I told her I should have worn one today. What was I thinking?
I've got one back here.
You got one in your bag?
You. Don't call me on that.
Oh, well, next time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. But no, what I love that you just said was you were in the jewelry industry. You didn't love it. You changed what you were doing.
Right.
That's so powerful for our listeners to remember that if you're not doing something you love, then change it.
For sure. It's all hard.
Yeah.
It's all hard.
It's all hard. Whether you love it or you don't love it, being an entrepreneur is hard. So you might as well do something you love. Right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So then you went into fashion, starting with the gowns, and did phenomenally well with that. That's like when that's when your line really took off, like your fashion line.
Yeah, I created a small capsule collection of 10 gowns, and I called around, and I wasn't afraid to ask questions. That's one of the things, there was no ego. It was just, this is my kid, and I want my kid to do well in the world.
Yes.
And so someone had said, you've got to go to this trade show in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And so I called up this showroom. It wasn't, the fashion shows that everyone thinks it is. You're hustling.
Yes.
They give you a little bit of rack.
Yeah.
And they're like, go sell your stuff.
Yeah, I've been to some of those in Vegas. I've seen that.
The magic show?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you went to Atlanta. So I used to have a showroom in Atlanta at the Mart there. So I was there 5 times a year.
Yeah.
If you ever need any good restaurants,
But what I love that you told me about you going to the show and shopping your gowns was that most of the booths were all like Middle Eastern men.
Right.
And you're like the only woman. And that you like even pretended that you had a male boss just so they would do business with you.
Right.
It's so funny, people, I know there's listeners laughing that they've done the same thing. Like we've all done that kind of thing. Like I know I was in a business and I used to put the guy in touch with my boss, even though I was doing all the work behind it and, made it happen. And I thought, well, I was getting paid. What do I care? Sure. If he wants to talk to my male boss, I don't care. Yeah. This is the kind of crap, you guys, that we have to put up with. But it worked for you.
Well, it's funny. So it worked, and long story short, I hustled, and within a year I was in a couple thousand stores in most major department stores. And
that is amazing, Dalia.
Thank you.
How old were you then?
I was 21.
21?
Yeah.
And you were in a couple thousand stores?
20 or 21. it was, the timing was right as well. But
and you and I talked about that, and it is so true. You can have the best product in the world, but it has to be the right time.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, because even today, you said the gown niche isn't as popular as it was then, but you happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, you've ventured into other products, blouses, handbags, whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have to.
I meant to tell you, so Dalia MacPhee, is that your actual name?
Yes.
So I was like, I was like, oh my God, her parents gave her like the perfect designer name. Like, you were
that's
born a
funny.
designer.
Yeah, well,
that's such a wonderful fashion designer
That's funny.
name.
Well, yeah, probably my mom was thinking.
Probably.
She was like, this is for branding.
I love your mom. It really does pay to have a go-getter mom.
Oh, yeah.
So many people I've had on the show have attributed that they had a strong mom that was a trailblazer for their time, because obviously there weren't a lot of women movers and shakers in that space in the time that your mom was in it. Mm-hmm. And so that's really great. You had that role model.
Oh, yeah. I saw her. I mean, people, it was incredible.
Yeah.
She's still incredible.
Yeah.
So,
She's still in the business?
She's not in the business, but I still call her all the time and go through war stories, and she advises me. And,
that's
you
invaluable.
have to have a team. You've got to have those voices pushing you.
That's the other thing for entrepreneurs. I always say, don't try to do everything yourself.
No.
Do what you're good at, and let other people around you do what they're great at.
Right. Everyone's got their gift.
Yeah. And let them do their gift, and then it gives you time to do your gift.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Hard to do sometimes when you're bootstrapping.
Yes, it is hard. It is hard because that's the first thing an entrepreneur would say. Oh, that'd be great to surround myself with that, but how do I do that financially?
Well, you have to get to that point.
Yes.
And then you start doing it.
Yes.
But it's interesting what you spoke about the male bosses, because that worked for me for a while. And then a couple years later, I had to go to China to the factories.
Yeah.
And I called one of my best guy friends, and I'd said, I need you to do me a favor. First of all, I was going into an area where there's like really no white females, CEOs. So I was a little nervous.
Yeah.
But I was afraid of the culture, and I'd said, you're going to come and you're going to be my boss.
Yeah.
And so now here we are at the factory, and I'm very upset about something that just happened. And I'm sitting in this room, and my friend's on his laptop, my boss.
Yeah.
And we've got the factory owner and some of, the people working for him, and 2 women. And I'm negotiating with him, and he keeps looking to my friend to get the answers.
Yes.
And my friend's very liberal. So he goes, well, ask her. And nothing was happening. And I stood up and I slammed my pencil down, and I'd said, from this point on, I'm the boss. And I looked at my friend and said, do you have a problem with that? He's like, and, it was like there was a new respect because we weren't getting anything done. So I was like, why did I bring him? That's
great.
And the 2 women in the room, you could see they were kind of smiling, like they felt empowered.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow, okay, this woman just took charge.
No, but by taking the role, you definitely did, you break down barriers when you do that. So I'm
you
proud
live by
of
example. Thank you.
Yes, it's so true. So now you design other things, blouses and handbags and dresses and stuff we talked about, and I think we have some of those. So you sit down and sketch those out? Like, I mean, I don't know. Or is it done on a computer? Or?
It's a combination of everything. I've got a team as well.
Yeah.
And it's a combo. Some of the stuff is done on computer. Some is done, freestyle.
Right.
Some is literally just written out like code.
Right.
And I'm able to...
do you see it in your head? Like, is that how it starts? I mean, I don't know. I'm just so curious.
There's so many different... So the inspiration for me always starts with the end user. It's what's going to make the women happy. What will they buy? What will be affordable? What will fit them? What's conscious?
Right.
And then you start working in those realms.
Like, speaking of conscious, you were the first one to start using the vegan materials, right?
Right. It was one of the first.
One of the first. And now it's like common, and everybody's like, oh, you got to have vegan materials.
Right.
But you were one of those trailblazers.
Yeah, and at the time, people thought, I couldn't do an interview anywhere and say the collection's vegan because they wouldn't actually see the collection. They'd think that it was potato sacks and Birkenstocks, So I always believe that you get something as a part of culture.
Right.
And then, so I'd pull the vegans aside and be like, hey, it's vegan.
Yeah.
And with the other people, I'd do a big show. where they'd go, oh my God, wow, wow, wow. And then I'd say, hey, did you know what vegan looks like?
Yeah.
It looks like that.
Right.
And then you get them like, oh, okay. It still took 15 years.
Unbelievable. You are really such a visionary.
Thank you.
You know, that you saw that way before anybody else did. And now you are making a foray of combining technology and fashion, which, let's tell the funny story, by the way, that you did this way before its time. And you would put a jeans product in Macy's that was combining jeans and
technology, the fiber optic jeans.
And, you know, like any entrepreneur, you try a lot of different things, and people, they don't always work.
No.
So you do have your stories of things that didn't work. The cool thing about people is they tend to remember all the things you did right and not the things you did wrong.
Really? I need to hang out with your people because in my world, they remember what you did wrong.
Oh, really? Because I think, you know, they'll just, you know, once you're a super successful person, they look at all those things like, you know, like let's say Mark Cuban or somebody. You look at all of his successes, but
that's
I'm sure
true.
he had failures, but
Sure.
people only see the 5 successes, not the 20 failures. That's what I meant. But anyway, sorry, Mark Cuban. I'm sure you had no failures.
He's watching.
You never know.
Hi, Mark. I've got pet products.
So, speaking of pet products, so now you actually are moving into the pet product arena and combining fashion and technology for this. You're an equestrian, right?
Yes, yeah. I
very
grew up with
cool.
horses.
Yeah.
I have a horse out in Calabasas, and I still ride and jump. And
is that like your way of getting balance in your life? Because I know
I think
entrepreneurs are workaholic.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I always say a happy entrepreneur is a successful entrepreneur. So you have to take time for the things that move your soul.
Yeah.
And I've loved horses since I was a little girl.
I love that.
I think they're the most fair animal.
Yeah.
You know, love dogs, but they're easy.
Yeah.
Cats are a little hard.
Yeah.
But horses are just fair. And especially when you're riding and you're jumping big fences on this animal that's 2,000 pounds, it's a partnership.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
So, there were all sorts of things that we needed in the equestrian world.
And one of the things that came to light when there were the fires both in San Diego and Malibu for you was that, hey, we've got to combine the technology and fashion. I forgot to finish the story about your Macy's.
Did you want to hear that? Or?
Yeah, well,
okay.
I know you.
There's so many stories in so little time.
I know.
We should extend the show.
I know but you did put jeans into Macy's that had some
fiber optic technology.
Yeah, and it didn't go over well, and
I was stopped in the airport.
Yeah.
I'd created these jeans. It was right after 9/11, and imagine you've got.
That was bad timing, Dalia.
Okay. I don't always get it right. And you said you wouldn't remember.
That's right, I did.
I had created these beautiful premium denim jeans. And then imagine in the back pocket, via fiber optic technology, a pair of lips appears, blows a kiss at you, and disappears back into the pocket.
Oh, my God.
And it had all sorts of designs. And they were machine washable, and you'd plug them into the wall to charge.
Yeah.
And so I got a meeting with Macy's, and I didn't have time to change, so I wore the jeans. Ran through security. This is right after 9/11, right? So, of course, I set off the sensors, and they're patting me down, and they're like, so you've got wires in your back pocket.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, yeah, I've invented the first light-up premium denim jeans. Okay, so you have to show how it works like a laptop. Well, I'd forgotten the battery.
Oh, my
You see, you should always have extra batteries. And so now I'm surrounded by 15 officers.
Who think you have a bomb in your pants. Yeah.
Right. They were like, we think you've invented the first butt bomb. That's what we think you've invented. So luckily I found an extra battery, and I demonstrated it, and then, you know.
all was well.
They were like, you should patent that. And,
but Macy's bought these, thought they'd be a big hit, and it didn't work out that way.
It was their biggest flop. But you know,
at least it was their biggest.
I know. If you're gonna go
for it.
Go big. But you know, when you talk about timing, people didn't have phones where they were doing video. I mean, how do you show this?
Right.
You know,
it was so different then.
But I put it on the back burner, and I thought, there's a time for everything.
Right.
And then, whoosh, you know, you see how many years pass by. 18 years pass, and we're in a completely different world.
Yeah. And so now, are you implementing them into your clothing? Because I know we're going to talk about you implementing them into the animal clothing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's a great story. So now, as an equestrian, back to that story, when there were the fires in Malibu and San Diego, a lot of horses lost their lives, and it was just horrific. And you invented this blanket to put on them to prevent them from burning, and also with a built-in GPS, right?
Right.
So they can find them. And we actually have a clip of a story about this on the news. So let's roll that for a minute.
That are affected by these wildfires, pets and livestock threatened as well.
The Los Angeles woman has come up with something that she hopes will help horses survive these deadly blazes. Al Eisner has that story.
Horses running from the intense flames of the 2017 lilac fire in San Diego County. No people were killed, but 46 horses were at a training facility. It was an awful thing to equestrian Dalia MacPhee, who designed the orange coat on her horse Wolfie.
This is for like a quick evacuation?
In other words, if authorities tell a horse owner, let your horses go and get out of here now, which happens from time to time.
Well, that was fascinating. So you got it on the news, which is great because then people found out about it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, timing's everything. So what happened was a couple years ago, I was out of town, and that big fire went through Calabasas. And so I called the stables and I'd said, what's going on? How's Wolfie? And they'd said, okay, the fire department's here. The stables are starting to catch fire. And I'd said, well, where are the evacuation trailers? And they'd said, well, the fire department won't let the evacuation trailers in because if they break down, the roads are blocked and civilians can't go. A lot of people don't know this. This is one of the reasons there's a need.
Right.
They can't get evacuated in time.
Right.
So I'd said, well, then what's the plan? Because the stables are starting to catch fire. And fire department said, set the horses loose or hose them down so they burn slower.
Oh my God, that's horrific.
Yeah. And,
oh my God.
You know, and the seed had been planted then, but I didn't do anything about it. Cut to
but your horse ended up surviving that?
Our trailers were we were very lucky. They found a back road to get in. My horse was the last to get on the trailer.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, the seed had been planted. I didn't do anything about it. Cut to the lilac fire, which happened in 2017
in San Diego,
in San Luis Rey Downs, and which you saw in the clip where there were, you know, again, same thing. A fire comes through quickly. There wasn't enough time to get the horses out, and they did the right thing. They set them loose because there was no chance. And I called up a friend of mine, and I'd said, I can't watch this. And I'd said, how come no one has invented a fully fire retardant horse blanket with GPS? And she'd said, why don't you create one? And so I got to work, and there was a lot of research that was done.
Right.
The pricing that we're offering it at shouldn't be this low, but this is from the heart.
So where do people get that? They might be listening, want to go.
So you can. There's the best place is actually to go onto the website, which is Dalia MacPhee, DALIA MacPhee.com, and if you click under Shop and Equisafe, which is the name of the blanket.
Equisafe.
And it's patent pending. The fabrics are proprietary. There's a few levels of protection. I actually, you know, I'll often demonstrate it with a blowtorch over my arm.
Oh, wow.
Just because it's that good.
I know you wanted to bring that blowtorch on the set today. I'm like, no,
Catherine was
no,
like,
Dalia.
oh, I like my eyebrows.
No blowtorch.
I've demonstrated that multiple times, and I've been successful every time but once.
And that's why I didn't let you come.
No one's going to miss that guy.
You're funny. So this is amazing.
And
this
then,
is amazing.
by the way,
and it sounds like exactly what you said. You find a need, and then you create a product.
Yeah, and also, you know, the thing is
smart.
there's so much going on in the world right now, is that, you know, you can sit and you can watch and you can be apathetic and you can share and you can say, oh, isn't that terrible? Or you can
do
stop
something.
being a victim and you can say, how do I fix this?
Right. I love
and
that.
so that was the first of many. And
Right.
you know, when I do something, I do it right. So you know, I
Yeah.
went and I spoke with the wildfire fighters
Right.
and spoke with NASA and spoke with the fighter pilots.
Yeah, you were proactive.
To figure out, okay,
Yeah.
how do they get burned? And then the GPS is really important because
Yeah.
often people can't find the horses. And another thing that people don't know is that you have people who will pick up loose horses
Yeah.
and take them to auction houses
Yes,
to auction them
I
off
heard
for
that.
slaughter.
Oh my God, that is so horrific.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we need all
Yes.
of these. We need a lot more, but
Yes.
this was a start. And
start, yeah.
I actually just patented and released the first ever fully fire retardant dog
I love
blanket
that.
with GPS.
I love that. We have our little dog.
It's
and-
adorable.
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
I'll have to get you one.
yeah, I mean, who doesn't love their pets? I mean,
we
and
should just have it. Like
Yes.
there aren't even any standards for the
I'm
animals.
so glad that you did this.
Thank
I
you.
mean, to think it didn't exist and that you filled that need and your product is gonna save so many lives. This is amazing, Dalia.
Well, and it's actually going to be carried by the top 2 equestrian retailers in the United States.
I love that.
So any of my horse people can also get them there, which
That's
is
so
great.
cool.
And then that kind of inspired what else?
Yeah,
So hang
yeah.
on, because there's some really cool things coming out for dogs and horses. And
Oh, I love it. Come on, tell us.
I can't tell you yet, unless
you can't tell
unless
us yet.
everyone wants to sign a blanket NDA
Yeah.
right now, and I'll wait.
Okay, we'll wait. What can you tell us? What are some clothing or clothing and tech or whatever you have coming up? Anything that we should know about or any fashion shows?
Well, oh my gosh, I mean, there's so much stuff. I just I have a collaboration coming up with Red Bull.
Oh, really?
We're doing.
Wow.
I love collaborations, and I love always attaching to causes with
So-
the fashion.
Oh, yeah. I saw you do that. That's wonderful.
So we're teaming up with one of their athletes
Mm-hmm.
and doing a high fashion shoot, and I'm actually creating a techie thing for this particular athlete that Red Bull's going to support.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of, this is a woman who does everything. And so it's a story of, why can't you be everything?
Yeah.
Why can't you be glamorous? And why can't you be, you know, dirty in the mud? And, you
Yeah.
know, it's
Like
the
run
whole
the
gamut.
gamut.
Sure, why
Yeah,
not?
Why not?
Why not?
I love your chutzpah. Yeah, I
That's
do.
that's good
Yeah.
that you knew that word.
Well, thank you for being here, and thanks you for all the cool things
Oh,
you're
thanks for
doing in the
having me.
world, making the planet a better place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. And you too.
Thank you. And thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you viewing, and we hope you go out there and make the world a better place yourself. Hugs and happiness.